Rev up your engines!
Well, Ford announced they're going to shut down production at their plant in Kansas City of the F-150s, their favorite vehicles. Who knows? Does this have anything to do with cyber attacks, Russian invasion? Who knows? Production shut down by Ford. Nobody's saying why or what. They're not giving any information on it. It's the one plant in F-150s. Of course, the F-150s are their biggest profit maker. They make all their profit on those things. So it's a big deal to Ford. They got to shut down one of their factories that make these things. That's where most of their profit is coming from, the F-150 line. Well, if you got a Ford Explorer, Lincoln Navigator, or a Lincoln Aviator, they're being recalled over a fire risk. And of course, it's one of the dumbest things that I saw when they started putting them in. Ford, for some of their vehicles, said, oh, you don't need a gas cap anymore. You got gas capless systems where there's just a flap. You stick the gas pump in and it opens up and it fills it up with gas, right? I mean, that's perfectly fine for race cars, because race cars are in a big hurry to fill them up. They don't want to spill anything. They don't have to mess with the cap, right? Us normal humans who aren't race car drivers, do we really care? You open the cap, you fill it up, you put the cap in, and it's sealed by a simple rubber O-ring inside the cap. When it goes bad, you buy another cap that costs, $8, $10 or something. But Ford came up with this gas capless system, which is really stupid. And now those systems aren't working right, and these cars can start on fire because they don't seal correctly. And I see it all the time. As cars age, these stupid capless systems that were Ford, a lot of their trucks, some of their cars, you stick it in, you don't have to take a cap off. When they get a few years old, they start leaking. Then you get a trouble code. You can't get your car inspected legally in a state that does that. Then you got to buy this whole expensive assembly, take the gas tank off, put the assembly in, put it back on again. It is a royal pain in the butt. A stupid idea. Instead of a simple gas cap you could take on and off, change it yourself. They put this assembly in. Just plain stupidity. And now their cars are starting on fire. They have a risk because, like I said, it can just fall off or it can leak the vapors. Somebody smoking a cigarette walks by, woof, goes your car. All because the idiots decided, oh, we're not going to put a cap on it. Why don't they just give up and go back to putting caps on all their vehicles like everyone else has? What a stupid idea. And now they got to recall them. So if you got an Explorer or an Aviator, you might check to see if there's a recall on the national website, and you type in your VIN number, one of those .org places, and it'll tell you if there's a recall on the thing. Dumb idea. Come on, bring back the gas caps, Ford. You've gone totally bonkers, putting them in normal vehicles that people drive. They're not race cars. They're not in a hurry to get back into the race that they can't have time to screw the cap back on. Just a dumb idea. And like I say, as they get older, they break, then you got to pay for it. Well, these are new cars, 2022, and they're not working right already. Dumb idea, Ford. Get rid of it. Put caps back on, please. Chandler 7780 says, I keep replacing my airflow sensor. I have an '08 Corolla. I keep replacing them after the light goes off for a week, then it's back. Here's the thing. Your code, you say, is P0171. That means your engine is running lean. It doesn't mean that you have a bad mass airflow sensor. Many things can make your engine run lean. Low fuel pressure from a clogged filter, a weak pump, bad fuel pressure regulator, vacuum leak, and on a Corollas, often it's the intake manifold vacuum leak that leaks. Even a PCV valve can suck too much vacuum and cause net code. Now, replacing the MAF sensor often won't fix it. And you might say, well, I replaced it and he shut the light off and it was off for a week and then it came back. Here's the thing. Many codes, especially if you got a small vacuum leak, like in the intake manifold, you reset it. Even if you didn't change the MAF sensor, you could reset it and it might stay off for a week and then come out, because it might take a whole week for that code to pop up because it's a small vacuum leak. Odds are your problem is not the MAF sensor. Now, if he's buying OEM MAF sensors, yeah, I mean, if you buy a cheap aftermarket one made in China, sure, could be you getting bad ones. But those codes, P0171 is a generic code, means the engine's running lean. There are literally over a dozen things that can do it. And if your mechanic keeps changing the sensor, he doesn't know what he's doing. I'd go to another mechanic. He's just guessing. He should have tested it. He should have got his freeze-frame oscilloscope, looked at the data of the mass airflow sensor, see if it's correct or incorrect. And don't blame the sensor. The sensor is probably working perfectly fine if the car runs okay. On those, more or less, it's often an intake manifold gasket leak if your fuel filter's not clogged and if your fuel pump puts out enough pressure. So I'd go to another mechanic, start from scratch, and they find something else wrong, I'd get my money back from that guy. Say, hey, you put a part on I didn't even need. Charlie, the compact driver, says, why do you dislike Hyundai? They seem reliable by consumer parts. They seem solid. Why do you dislike them? Well, I dislike them because they make too many mistakes. They make engines that blew up. They made horrible transmissions. And yet, even you admitted they aren't Honda or Toyota. Why buy something underneath them when you can get a Honda or Toyota? Get an old used one like I do and drive it for another 10, 20 years. I don't like them because they don't have the quality. They never have. And from my experience, they never will, because they keep saying, oh, they make them better. They spend a lot of money advertising. But they still have problems. They're recalling the ones that still start on fire, that the transmissions break, that the engines come apart on them. Their quality control just isn't there. And the worst thing that I hate them for is, back in the day, they cost a lot less than Hondas and Toyotas, right? But now they're getting a bunch of money for them. Why would you buy a new Hyundai when for like $1,000 or $800 more you could get a Toyota Honda? It would be plain stupidity. And that's why I don't like them. I go for the best things out there to help people out. Not something that, well, it's an okay car. Fine. If you want to buy a used one with low mileage and it's cheap, go ahead. But even today, they're not getting cheap. They're getting just as much for them as all the other cars. Everybody's gone nuts with this pandemic and raising the price of used cars so high that you can't even generally get a good used Hyundai or Kia. It's basically the same company. They kind of own each other for a little money either, so you might as well get a Honda or a Toyota if you're going to spend money. And one says, help, my hazard lights are flashing after I lock the car. My 2016 Honda Civic keeps flashing after I lock the vehicle through all doors and latches. Here's one thing you can test. Don't lock anything. Just close the doors. If it's not flashing, you know it's not your four-way flasher breaking. Sometimes that system breaks, and then you got to buy a new switch that you push to turn the four-way flashers on. Sometimes those switches will break and they'll go on. But if it only happens when you lock it, you got a problem with your burglar alarm system. Because when you lock it, that arms the burglar alarm system, and it thinks that somebody's trying to steal the car. Do make sure the hood and the trunk are closed, because if they're open, it thinks somebody's stealing a car. It'll flash. That alarm system will be flashing on and off. But if it only happens when you lock it, not when you don't lock it, it's not the four-way flashes themselves. It would be your burglar alarm system starting to break down. You're going to have to check all that out. Check to see if any of the switches are broken down and they're staying open when, even though they're closed, the switch, like for the hood or the trunk, isn't working. I've seen the hood ones break and do that all the time. So you might check that first. And also, if you're doing it with a remote, if you got another known good remote in your drawer, like I do, I always stick them in a drawer so I always know there's one in there if I lose one or if one breaks. Try that, and if that works, then just use that and then go get another copy made so you'll have a good one. Pray it's that easy and that it's not something electronic in the system like the anti-theft module starting to break down. All-wheel drive says, Scotty, I got to recall my 08 GS 350. I'm going to make an appointment to take it to a dealer in Brooklyn. I remember watch out for dealerships. What should I watch out for? Okay, well, you're in Brooklyn. Don't let them try to sell you the Brooklyn Bridge, right? The old, hey, I got a bridge for sale. You want to buy it? Generally, when you bring it in for a recall, they'll try to sell you the kitchen sink. They'll look at your records on the computers and say, oh, you need this servicing done. You need that servicing done. They're going to try to sell you everything generally. So to just say, hey, there's a recall, I want this fixed, that's it. I'm not paying for other stuff. I get my oil changed somewhere else. I'm not worried about it. I just want the recall done. Because they will look it up on their computer and they'll say, oh, you missed this service, you missed that, you need this, blah, 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 blah. It could be thousands of dollars of stuff that your car doesn't really need. So be firm and just say, no, I just want the recall done, thank you. I've got my own mechanic that works on the car. I just want the recall done because I get it done free. And just make a point that you're firm and you're not going to get ripped off by them selling you crap that you do not need. Sikkim says, while the Hyundai hate, I see that Hyundai Motor Group is not known for quality, yet they and Kia and Genesis offer one of the best standard warranty in the industry, and they've topped some of the list of J.D. Power initial quality. First of all, initial quality. What the heck does that mean? You buy a car. Yeah, I hope it isn't broken when you buy it and drive it. That's meaningless. It's long-term stuff. And you say, Genesis is great. Let me tell you something. I work on those things. Those things are money pits as they age. They're not like a Lexus that can go 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 miles with hardly any work. When they get older, man, they fall apart and cost a fortune. I did a video last year where I showed a Genesis versus a Lexus. The Genesis had like 110,000 miles, and the cams, all four of them were wearing out. And the Lexus had 200-something thousand miles, and the cams showed almost no wear at all on my scan tool. Quality is not even close. Initially, they look good. The Genesis ride great. They're fast and all that stuff. But look what happened to Tiger Woods when he was driving that Genesis. Woo! Supposed to have anti-collision stuff and keep you safe on the road. It flipped over and went, so that doesn't work that well either. I'm a mechanic. I gotta fix this crap when it breaks. You buy one of their cars, I guarantee you it'll break at least 3 or 4 times more than a Toyota or a Honda, and certainly break much faster too. David says, why doesn't my clutch engage? I rebuilt my engine, Zuzu engine, I got it started, and when I release the clutch, I can feel it wanting to move, but it won't move. How did you rebuild it? Did you have that engine taken out and then put in? If you did, somebody messed up installing the clutch, because the clutch plate bolts on the flywheel on the back of the engine, right? It could be something as dumb as they put the plate in backwards, the friction plate, and it's not going to work. You said you push it down, pick it up, but it won't move anywhere. It's not connected anymore. Either the clutch part is broken, they didn't put it back in when they put the transmission on right. Pray it's something simpler, like maybe they got the clutch adjusted too tight. If it's adjusted too tight, it'll slip the whole way and the car won't move. Pray it's something dumb, like the clutch needs to be adjusted down. The rod maybe was made too tight and then it'll be engaged all the time. It'll just slip. Pray it's that, and that they didn't screw up and put the clutch in wrong, because if they did, you're going to either pull the engine or pull the whole transmission off again and put in brand new clutch parts because they didn't put it together right. Pray it's like the rod was adjusted too tight and loosened it. I've seen that happen. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.